Welcome, amigas. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We still have folks joining, so we're going to give them just 30 to 45 seconds more because we have a beautifully packed session and we want to make sure that you're able to hear from our guest of honor this month. We are so thrilled and excited to have her. And without further ado, I'm going to get into it. I'm Vanessa Santos, the co-CEO and partner of We All Grow Latina. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. And for those of you that are new, welcome to We All Grow. Welcome to the Amigahood. At We All Grow, we ignite the voices and dreams of Latinas through the power of community rooted in friendships, because we know this very well, that when one grows, we all grow. Our mission is to illuminate the path of growth, of cultivating a collective sense of belonging that supports you all to tap into your fullest potential with joy and well-being as our compass. So this is our April Amigas Mentor Session, officially welcoming you all, and we hope that you're ready to level up your dinero and become financially poderosa. In this Amigas Mentor Session, you'll learn from Janice Torres, a Latina money expert and author, how to become financially lit with your dinero and some personal finance advice that will allow you to finally feel seen, heard, and understood. So this is not yet available, but you can pre-order it. And this is why it's important, because we understand that the books, the literature, the information that is out there is not written for us. These folks have not had our lived experiences. We have a very different starting line, and this book is going to help you understand, feel supported, and use it as a guide. I love it, and I cannot wait for you to hear from Janice. So, mi querida amiga, ¿cómo estás? Welcome, welcome, welcome. And the floor is yours, because I know everyone is eager to hear from you.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here because y'all are like the OGs of creating amazing communities and spaces where we can be our authentic selves. And so shout out to the work that all the team members are doing at We All Grow. Just know that I'm inspired every single day. And it is an absolute honor to be here. Okay, so let's just get right into it because there's so much to talk about, y'all. If anybody feels like you got only part of the instructions to pursue the American dream, please let me know in the chat. I feel like I got the get a good job, go to school, make a lot of money. But then what? That was the end of the conversation, right? And so if you're feeling like, okay, did that, now what? This is exactly why I wrote my book. So today we're going to be talking about the Financially Lit Framework, which is essentially the framework that I used to create my book. So just to start off, in case you don't know who I am, I'm Janice Torres, Latina money expert, creator and host of the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast, the #1 podcast for Latinas. Okay. And I've been doing this now professionally as a full-time job for the past 3 years. And now I get to call myself an author. I wrote a book, Financially Lit, The Modern Latina's Guide to Level Up Your Dinero and Become Financially Poderosa. And the reason why I created this podcast and now the book is because what I said before, where I'm like, I got part of the story, but then what? Okay, so just a little bit of my backstory, because this whole journey as an entrepreneur, as a personal finance educator, was never part of the plan. Okay, I am a first generation kid. My parents are from Puerto Rico. They came here in the 80s to New Jersey specifically. And as the eldest daughter, I had very specific instructions on what to do. You must go to college. You must get a good education. You must make a lot of money and work a job and retire at 65. Okay, so I was always a good student in school, got a scholarship, was originally going to study medicine, decided I didn't want to be in school until my mid-30s. And so I pivoted a little bit in my educational career and instead went into the field of engineering. My father was actually an engineer and he's completely self-taught. He went to the military. He taught himself how to wire computers together and he made a really great career out of it. And so I saw my dad making the money as the breadwinner of the family as something that I wanted to do as a woman. I never saw women having earning power in my family, you know, grandmothers, aunts, etc. So I associated making money as a male dominated thing. And so, of course, I go into a male dominated field. I'm usually the only Latina in the room, usually the youngest by at least a decade. And it was very clear to me very quickly how this quote unquote safe, stable thing that they tell us to do in going to corporate was not so safe and stable. So I graduated 6 months before the Great Recession, May 2007. Shout out to all the elder millennials who had to graduate into the worst economic market in recent history. And I very quickly saw layoffs, mergers, acquisitions, people being tossed aside after pursuing education and pursuing these lucrative careers, just being kind of thrown away. And so by my late 20s, I had come to the conclusion that I don't think what I was told was the full story. And if I don't protect myself financially, I could very well be one of these folks who were my colleagues that was getting walked out of an office, in their late 50s or 60s and trying to figure out, well, what do I do now? So I started learning about money by listening to podcasts. I found a lot of white men talking about money, and that felt irrelevant. That felt like, okay, that's great that you have your boys club and you're out here talking about money. What about us? What about women? What about first gen kids? What about immigrants? What about Latinas? And so I think what happened is that because I'm an engineer and the way that I was educated was to identify problems and build solutions for them, that's exactly the approach that I took. So I created my podcast, Yo Quiero Dinero, after listening to a ton of podcasts that were not speaking to us. And it has now become my full-time business and passion, and has led me now to the opportunity to write an incredible book that I hope is going to change so many lives in our community. It is available for pre-order now, Financially Lit, and you can order your copy, both hard copy and the audiobook, at financiallylitbook.com. And I'm also going to be doing a book tour. So I would love to see you if I am going to be stopping at a city near you. Okay, so first, I think the biggest question that I had to get really clear on answering as part of this process of writing the book is how being Latina affects your money. Because despite what the mainstream personal finance media will tell you, there's a lot that goes into play depending on the identities and the intersection of those identities that we carry as people. So a white person with money does not have the same experience as a Latina, does not have the same experience as a Black woman, does not the same person as a member of the LGBTQ community, etc. So we have to get very clear on the fact that we are not all starting from the same place. And being Latina definitely affects your money in a multitude of ways. Most apparently, when we take a look at the pay gap. So we, every year, I don't know if the word is, it's not really a celebration. It's a kind of a highlighting of the fact that Latina Equal Pay Day is usually around late October, November, because it takes us essentially almost, twice the amount of time to make the money that a white man would make. So Latinas are typically on the bottom rung when it comes to the pay gap. And I like to say that we are being asked to pursue the American dream with half of the budget. So if it feels hard or harder to do all the things that quote unquote we're supposed to do, like buy a house or have children or save for retirement, it's because you have half of the money to do that. So if you're exhausted, I understand. What's more important to understand too is how this is impacting us as a community as a whole. And these numbers are startling. Since the early 1980s, median wealth between Black and Latino families has been stuck at less than $10,000. So when we talk about generational wealth and wealth transfer, that's literally not happening in our community. And that's why we see this repeated cycle of struggle, of poverty, of not making progress, because there's literally no wealth being built to be passed on. When you get a wealth transfer, you can potentially start a business, you can buy real estate, you can invest in the stock market, you can do things that then continue to accelerate the growth of that wealth. But if you literally have to be the foundation, which many of us are, we are the ones that are building that foundation, it's hard, it's exhausting. So the fact of the matter is that if we wait until corporate entities, government agencies, politicians to actually give a shit about the pay gap and the fact that Latinas are typically on the bottom end when it comes to earning power and the ability to build wealth, it will take 200 years if we wait for somebody else to care about this and put policies into place that will fix the systemic issues that are causing this. What that actually looks like on an individual level is Latinas stand to lose over $1.1 million over their lifetime due to this pay gap. So if seeing this information enrages you, good, because that's exactly the reaction you should be having. That's the reaction that I have every time I look at this data, but it also reinforces why these conversations are so important. So knowing all of that, right, you might be asking yourself, well, like, what the heck is it about our community that makes this so hard? Well, obviously there are systemic issues at play. There's also a huge lack of culturally competent financial literacy information. Even now in 2024, it is very difficult to find Spanish language financial literacy content. And I know there's some creators who are adding to the conversation, which is so powerful. And that's also one of the reasons why my book is going to be coming out in Spanish as well, because we need to be talking to people in the language that they're comfortable learning. Obviously, we have the wage gap at play. There's no generational wealth transfers that are happening. There's a lot of distrust that comes from potentially your parents' upbringing or their homeland that they come from, right? The fact that they might come from environments where there was a lot of government corruption and a lack of trust in financial institutions. And so this is why you will see Latinos being more skeptical of investing in the stock market or even using banks. There's a lot of people in our community who are unbanked because they do not trust the banks to actually hold their money and be able to give it back to them when they want it. Obviously, systemic racism and oppression is a thing. Anybody who wants to argue with that, like, go argue with the wall, because it's not going to be with me. But there's also like government policies that make it harder for us to earn more, advance in our careers, especially if you're a working mother, lack of access to affordable childcare, fair wages, like, it's too much. It's a lot. Okay. And then on top of all of that, we have a lot of financial trauma in our families and in our culture. Like, let's just be honest. There's a lot of trauma that gets passed down that manifests itself in a lot of different ways. So knowing all that, what do we do? Well, you can either choose to like lay face down on the ground and just be like, I just can't. It's too much. Or I would offer that we have a different option. We can actually say, you know what? Despite all of that bullshit that's going on, I'm still going to rise. And if you look at our characteristic as a community, we are the most resilient humans on planet Earth. Like, Latinos have survived colonization, oppression, systemic racism. Like, there's just so much stuff that we have overcome. And this whole financial literacy landscape is absolutely something that we can overcome. And it starts with us getting financially lit. So how do we do that? All right. Well, essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the different topics that I cover in my book. Now, obviously, I cannot teach you everything that I wrote in this 300+ page book, but this is going to give you sort of a taste of what to expect inside the book. And it really is written like an A to Z guide, because I want this to be the thing that you carry with you wherever you are in your journey of life, because money affects you differently depending on the different stages that you're in. So we're going to talk about basics, right? Obviously, we have to talk about things like budgeting and saving and investing, but we're not going to stay stuck there, because there are grown ass conversations that we need to be having around higher tiered advanced level topics like estate planning, like prenups, like wealth transfers, and all of that and more. So let's get into it. Now, one thing that I want you to understand is there is not a damn thing that I can do for you as a money educator if you don't address your mental health and your money mindset. I can give you all the tips, all the tricks, all the strategies, all the checklists. But if you don't work on your money mindset, it's going to go in through one ear and out the other. We all know we should be investing. We all know that we should diversify our income. We all know that we should save money. We all know we should pay off debt. We all know credit cards can ruin your life. But if you don't actually make changes to how you use money, how you relate to it, how you feel about it, nothing's going to change. So when we talk about our money mindset, these are our unique set of beliefs and your attitude about money that drives your decision making. It helps you decide what you want to do as far as spending, saving, and handling your money. So, how do we actually change our money mindsets? Well, the first thing that you do is you start learning about money, because one of the biggest roadblocks for people is the lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge creates fear. Fear creates inaction and paralysis. So when you actually understand something, it's a whole lot less scary. When you understand how for the past 100 years, the stock market has on average returned 10% growth, that is enough information to potentially make you be like, you know what? It's not gambling. Because if I look at the data, it shows me that this has an upward trajectory. And while there might be periods where it goes down, over the long term, the stock market always goes up, right? But if you don't know that and somebody's just telling you to invest, you're like, what? Like, I don't understand. How do I know I'm going to get a return on my money? What do I invest in? How do I make decisions? How do I open an account? All of those questions are what leads you to the analysis paralysis. So the most critical thing you can do when you want to change your money mindset, learn about the thing that you don't understand. Pick up a copy of Financially Lit, get the audiobook, listen to Yo Quiero Dinero, learn. Knowledge is power. All right. The second thing, we all need some therapy. Why? Because more than likely you have financial trauma. And that's a topic that we cover in the book. You need to get to the root of your beliefs about money. If you saw your parents fighting about money, you probably think that I don't want to talk about money with my partner because we're going to fight. If you saw your family spending every single dollar that came into the house, you probably think, well, what's the point of saving? It's just going to disappear anyway. If you saw your family get preyed on by a unscrupulous financial advisor, you might think, well, hell no, I ain't going to invest because my family got taken advantage of. Okay. So you need to get to the root of the beliefs that you have and understand that you can change them. Because at the end of the day, how you move with money is going to be directly tied to whether or not you address those traumas. Okay. Now, a big part of why I think my book is revolutionary is because I'm asking you to question the way that you spend money. One of the hot topics in the book is my thesis on why not everybody needs to be owning a house. And that's triggering, especially for the Latino community, where literally that's the only way we're told to invest. You must buy a house, otherwise you are a failure. Okay. I am almost 40 years old and I rent my single family home. And I love that shit. And despite the fact that I've been renting for the majority of my adulthood, I have amassed a net worth of $750,000 while renting, which tells me and should tell you that home ownership is not the only way to build wealth. Okay. So what I want you to start doing is start thinking about, are you actually spending your money on things that align with what you value? If you value flexibility, the freedom to move around, the fact that I don't have to be a landlord and be fixing broken pipes and toilets, then maybe renting is for you. And maybe instead of putting money towards a house right now, you decide, I'm going to save the money that I was going to use on a down payment and I'm going to bulk up my investments, or I'm going to save a bigger emergency fund, or I'm going to save a bigger down payment so I can take less of a mortgage, right? So it's important to start asking yourself, are the things that you're doing with your money actually aligned with the values, with the things that you actually care about? And I think this is an important note. Watching your language when we talk about money, I cannot tell you how triggering it is. Every time I hear somebody in my circle talking about, well, I can afford that, or we're not doing that, that's too expensive, or yeah, it must be nice. It must be nice for those people that they can do that. There's so much toxicity in the way that you talk about money, and you are reinforcing those negative feedback loops in your brain the more that you say, well, we can't afford that shit. So what I want you to start paying attention to is how you talk about money. If you find yourself negatively, speaking about your financial situation, put a pause on that. Try to reframe that. It might be, well, you know what? I'm not making enough money right now to live the life that I want. So I need to start looking at a career pivot, or I need to go back and get more education, or I need to look at how I'm going to diversify my income with a side hustle. Staying stuck in the I can't, we don't, that shit's not going to serve you at all. All right. So now that we've talked about mindset, let's get into some more practical strategies and things that we're going to talk about in detail in the book. So budgeting is probably the least sexy word in the English language, and everybody hates it. But the fact is that when you understand the purpose of a budget, it's actually intended to be your BFF. A budget is just a spending plan. Okay. It is not meant to be restrictive. It is not meant to deprive you. It is meant to be a guide to help you take control of your financial situation and ultimately reach your financial goals. Your budget is simply your incomes and your expenses and your goals. I think this last part is the part that people forget about. They just think, well, budgeting is just like how much I have it coming in and how much I need to like live. But you also want to include the things that you want to accomplish financially with your budget. So I covered these budgeting options in detail in the book, but let's just go over them, as I think a lot of people don't even realize there's different ways to budget. Like, I know the only way that I saw budgeting growing up, and this is definitely going to tell my age, was my mom sitting down at the kitchen table and writing the ledger of the checkbook, like reconciling all the checks that she wrote. She didn't teach me anything about like setting aside this percentage for wants or needs or savings or none of it. Okay. And obviously, a lot of these systems can be done digitally now, which wasn't even a thing back then. But essentially, what you want is to find the method that works for you. The 50-30-20 plan is something you might have heard, where essentially you figure out how to divide up your money into 3 categories. 50% of it going towards your must-haves, right? This is covering the essentials: food, housing, transportation, fixed costs, healthcare, things like that. 30% can be towards investing or your savings goals, or it could be towards like lifestyle bonuses, you know, the wants, the nice manicure, the vacations, things like that. And the 20% should be for like long-term goals, whether that's saving for retirement or investing, you know, in a house or whatever it is. These percentages obviously are going to fluctuate based on where you live. There are people who are spending way more than 50% of their income on fixed costs, especially if you live in a high cost living area. It is not uncommon for some people to be spending 60, 70, almost 80% or more on just like basic living essentials. Okay, so these percentages have to be flexible, and you have to be like realistic about what you can do with, you know, your specific income based on your specific scenario. All right. The envelope system is for people who like operating with cash. So if you like seeing the money physically going out, the envelope system is great, because essentially you're just creating a bunch of envelopes, and you can also do this digitally, where you're putting the specific amount of money that you need for each thing that you pay for every month. So like, let's say, for example, your rent is $2,000 a month. You would have an envelope for rent that has $2,000 a month, and you set that aside when you get paid. And then once that envelope is empty, that spending category is done for the month. This is a really good way to get a handle if you just find yourself spending a lot of money on unplanned things. So let's say you want to get a handle on your eating out budget. So you would create an envelope for the eating out budget for the month. And let's say you put a couple $100s in there. Once that is spent, you need to wait until the following month to replenish that envelope and be able to spend in that category again. Pay yourself first. This is what I do. I find that this is the best way to accelerate financial goals that you have. So essentially what that means is that before you spend any money on expenses, you actually fund your investing and your savings goals first. And the pay yourself first method is good for basically like figuring out how to live off of the rest of your money once you've fulfilled your savings and investing goals. So before I pay myself, you know, because obviously I have a business, but even when I was working and I got a paycheck, I would funnel money automatically towards my savings and automatically towards my investments. And then basically I had to figure out how I was going to live the rest of the month on this money. And then the zero-based budget is for people who want to do the whole like calculating every single penny that you're spending. You can use apps for this, and the zero-based budget just means that you get your fixed amount of money. Let's say at the beginning of the month, you have your $3,000, $4,000, whatever it is. And as you make a purchase, you are accounting for that purchase. And at the end of that month, you should have a zero balance. You should be allocating every single dollar that you make towards a specific expense or a goal. All right. So that is some options for budgeting. Again, I go into lots of detail as well as sharing resources for the different methods in the book. Now, paying off debt. Debt payoff for me has been one of the key things that has helped me accelerate my financial independence journey and allowed me to quit my job, allowed me to, build up my investments, and gives me so much peace of mind. So paying off debt is a really key part of making financial progress. But before you even start repaying your debt, you need to understand what's going on. I didn't know how much I owed until I calculated my net worth. If you've calculated your net worth, let me know in the chat. And if you have a tool that you're using to do that, let me know in the chat. I want to see how many people might be potentially using the same tool that I use. I mentioned the tool in the book. So you need to understand, who do you owe money to, how much? Yes, shout out to you, Kat. That's the same one I'm using. Fantastic. Calculating your net worth gives you the overall bird's eye view of what's happening with your money. And it wasn't until I saw that I was over $400,000 in debt between a house, student loans, credit cards, car, etc., that I was like, oh, hell to the no. I need to do something about this. But if you don't know what your situation is, it's hard to tell. So knowing your numbers is so important. Some of the debt payoff methods, actually, I've used all of these in my debt freedom journey. The last one is one that a lot of people don't know about, but I think it's actually a hidden gem. And I'm so excited to give you more details about this in Financially Lit. So you may have heard of the snowball method and the avalanche method. These are two different ways to tackle debt, and you prioritize your debts basically in two different ways. So you can either decide that you want to prioritize smallest to largest amounts, or you can prioritize by highest interest rate, so paying off the most expensive debt first. The debt lasso method is really cool because it can potentially save you thousands of dollars on interest. Essentially what you do is, those credit card offers that you're always getting in the mail, that they're here, open this credit card for 0% interest for 18 months, 24 months, whatever it is. You can actually consolidate your credit cards onto this new card potentially. And if you pay them off by the end of that promotional period, you will pay 0% interest. I did that to pay off $10,000 of credit card debt, and I saved thousands on interest. Now, obviously, you have to have good credit to qualify for these offers. But if your credit is not great, one of the topics that we talk about in the book is how to improve your credit score. And it's important to understand what are those different factors that are playing into your overall credit score. So we cover that in detail. Now, investing. To grow your wealth, it's not just about saving and paying off debt. You have to be making your money work harder for you. And the way that we do that is by investing. I think there's this perception where, if you want to make more money, it's always going to have to require some exchange of your time and energy. And that is absolutely false. The way that rich people make money is two primary ways: entrepreneurship and investing. So if you don't have any interest in owning your own business, because let's be honest, it's not for everybody, you damn sure better care about investing. Otherwise, you are literally going to work until you die. There's no way around that. Recently I shared a statistic on my Instagram threads that Social Security, which most of our elders are relying on primarily for income replacement when they retire, only covers 37% of your income. So think about how much money you make right now and try living off 37% of that. That's poverty for most of us. So the fact is that unless we are actively investing, you're pretty much guaranteeing ending up in poverty in retirement. So I cannot stress enough how important it is for us to be doing this. Now, if you currently contribute to any of these accounts listed on the slide, congratulations, you are an investor. We're talking 401ks, 403bs, thrift savings plans, IRAs, health savings accounts, college savings plans. For my entrepreneurs out there, yes, you can also have investing accounts as entrepreneurs, as a solo 401k or SEP IRA. And everybody can have a brokerage account, no matter how you earn money. So you need to be investigating these accounts. I have a whole chapter in the book on understanding investing. We talk about compound interest. I have a list of definitions because half of the battle of feeling confident as an investor is understanding all the bullshit terminology that they create in order to make you feel like you're learning a new language, which essentially you kind of are. You know, when we talk about money, there's so many different things that you've never heard of before that it is like earning or learning a new language. Now, this is when we get to the grown folks conversation, right? Because while I love seeing more and more personal finance books written by people of color, I do not think that enough of them are getting into the really grown folks conversations around, well, what do we do with all of this wealth that we're building? So estate planning is an absolutely essential part of your financial conversations that you need to be having, especially if you have children, or especially if you have aging parents, if your mom, your abuela, somebody owns a property that they want to transfer, you need to be talking to people about what they want to be done. And an estate plan is a collection of documents that protects your assets and personal property, aka your estate, and explains how you want them to be passed down. So before you start asking, do you need an estate plan? If you own anything of value that you want somebody to have, yes, you need an estate plan. And fun fact, you actually probably already have an estate plan. If you haven't done it yourself, you have the one that is governed by the laws of the state in which you reside. Because what happens is when you don't actually put together your own estate plan, the laws of wealth transfer and community property and all these other things automatically go into effect. And what can happen is you can leave a huge financial burden on your loved ones and make it very difficult and very expensive for them to get all of this wealth that you have amassed over the decades. So why the hell would we want to do that? That's not a very loving gift. You know, that's not a loving way to end your life. So let's do what we can do to make this process as seamless as possible for the people that we love. I have an attorney friend who said the most generous gift that you can give your family is peace of mind, that all of the technical aspects of your passing are handled and they can just be focused on sharing your legacy and grieving your loss. Because there is nothing more stressful than losing somebody that you care about, and then let's exponentially increase that stress by having to deal with courts and attorneys and government agencies and bullshit. Ain't nobody got time. Nobody got time. Okay, so 4 of the key estate planning documents, and I go into these in detail in the book. First is your healthcare power of attorney. This is where you name somebody to act on your behalf for medical care if you are incapacitated. Financial power of attorney. This allows someone to act on your behalf for financial decisions. A living revocable trust. This is used to transfer property quickly. If you own a home and you want your child to inherit it, please create a living revocable trust for the love of God. This can make the process of transferring the ownership of that home in a matter of weeks versus a matter of years, and can save your family tons of money on legal costs. And it also allows you to transfer property outside of public record. So let's just say you become a multimillionaire and you have a bunch of shit you want your kids to have. It's nobody's business as long as you put it in a trust. If you don't, then it all becomes public record. And then weird, shady ass people can start chasing your kids around, asking them for money because they know you just inherited millions of dollars. And a last will and testimony. This is where you are naming guardians for minor children and you're transferring ownership of any property that is not held in trust. So on top of the grown-ass conversations that we have in this book around estate planning, another grown-ass conversation that we need to be having is protecting ourselves in marriage. Because as women of color, we are literally the first generation of women who can build wealth at the levels that have not been seen before. It is not too far-fetched to say that a generation ago, your abuelita could not get her own credit card. Your abuelita could not have a bank account in her name only. Your abuelita could not have a house in her name only. Okay? Could not get a mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. So we are literally the first generation of women who are able to build massive amounts of wealth, and we must protect it with estate planning and also with prenuptial agreements. Why? Because the average divorce with kids involved costs $25,000, and that's on the low end. Whereas the average prenuptial agreement costs $2,500. That is definitely worth the money and then some, especially for my wealth building baddies, my entrepreneurs who are building businesses while married. We need to be doing more to protect it. So how do you know what type of document is right for you? Well, it's very simple. If you're not already married, you need a prenup. If you know ahead of time that you want to protect certain assets and you want to guarantee certain outcomes in the event of divorce, you need to get a prenup. If you live in a community property state, which is listed right here, Arizona, California, Idaho, Louisiana, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Washington, and Wisconsin, you definitely need to be signing a prenup. Why? Because community property means a 50-50 split. Doesn't matter who put in what. If you built a multi-million-dollar business and you happen to marry a deadbeat and now you got to give him 50% of that multi-million-dollar business, that's going to hurt. That's going to set you back. That's going to continue to perpetuate the cycle of struggle and poverty that we're trying to get out of. Okay. Now, if you're already married, I did this because I was building a business after the fact, right? So I got a postnuptial agreement. This is what you do when you don't get a prenup. If you and your spouse, you realize, oh, wow, we're on completely different pages when it comes to money. I need a postnup because I don't know what this man is doing. If you want to take a financial risk, like investing or starting a business, this is the route that I took. I knew I was going to go into full-time entrepreneurship. And so I said, hey, I need a postnup because I'm taking on a risk and I don't want you to necessarily be, liable for this. Or if you inherit a large amount of wealth, or you want to protect your wealth for children that you have from previous marriages. There's a lot of different scenarios to talk through with an attorney. But honestly, I feel like the same way that you are planning for your florist and your photographer and your DJ, you need to be planning for this. There's too much at stake. Now, I want to leave you with this because at the end of the day, like I mentioned in the beginning of our chat, your language around money is so incredibly powerful. So I want you to take a screenshot of this screen and I want you to write down these affirmations on Post-its, on your phone screensaver, wherever you're going to see them. Because there is nothing more powerful than affirming to yourself that you deserve wealth, that you are capable of creating it, and that there is a community of people who are doing the same. So money is a tool I can use productively and well to build the life I want. Money is abundant and I can earn more of it. Money is a resource that I can use responsibly to create stability for myself and others. Money gives me choices. Money is something I can understand and manage well. And if I don't know how to right now, I can learn and improve. Money is something I deserve so I can live well and help others. Can I get an amen in the chat? All right, so I think we're going to open this up for questions. In the meantime, please follow me on social. I am literally everywhere, Yo Quiero Dinero Podcast. And to get a copy of the book, you can get the audiobook version as well. If you love this presentation, I'm literally going to read the book to you the same way that I talk on the podcast. So you're going to get Loving Bitch Slaps by audio version. And you can find out all the details at financiallylitbook.com.
Can we just give a round of applause for a moment that this is a grown-ass book for grown-ass folks talking about grown-ass financial things, okay?
Absolutely.
Love it. I know that you were presenting, so you couldn't catch up with the chat, but we're going to go through questions.
Sure.
We're getting so much, you're receiving so much love for the open and transparent and real way that you're sharing this information, for the clarity, which is really important. And what I want to make sure that I remind everybody is this is a book that is helpful for you, but like the way that sharing songs is a love language, book recommendations is also a love language. Mm-hmm. And if you love somebody in your life and you want to see them do better, increase their wealth, understand financial jargon, understand the path, this is going to help you and them. And I'm just so excited that this is coming out soon and you can pre-order. Pre-ordering really does make a difference for these authors. It is so helpful. And again, not many of these books are written for us because they have not had our lived experiences. So it's really important that we continue to show up and support our own.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, I'm going to go into the document that Gabby so wonderfully is collaborating here to give us a question. So the first question is from Michelle Mendoza. How to get started in the stock market? Tips for a beginner and not to get overwhelmed. What kind of beginner tips can you provide?
Well, I think the lowest barrier to entry is if you have access to an investing account through your workplace. So if you have access to a 401k, a 403b, 457b, or a thrift savings plan, those are the four most common workplace retirement accounts. Just set aside a percentage of your paycheck. All you have to do is either log into your HR portal at work or contact your local HR partner to understand what those plans are, and start with like 1%, because you'll realize very quickly as you increase that percentage by, 1, 2% every time maybe you get a promotion or a raise, you won't even miss that money. And I think half of the battle of investing is just automating it, like setting it and forgetting it. The less that you have to think about it and the more that you can just like take care of it and let it do its thing, that's how you get to take advantage of time in the market. So take a look at workplace retirement accounts. If you are self-employed, the easiest thing you can do is go to any major discount brokerage firm. We're talking about Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, etc. Open an IRA. Put some money in there. You can put up to $7,000 this year. If you are under the age of 50, you can put, I want to say $8,000. If you're over the age of 50, that number changes every year. The IRS decides based on inflation. The point is, start now. Okay, start now and pick up a copy of the book, because we have literally an entire chapter on all of this.
Yes, we do. It is a guide. It is a guide. To me, I see it as a guide. It is like a roadmap, and it is so important that we understand that even with just a little bit of a contribution, until you can max out those contributions, it helps you. Don't wait until you feel like you can do the max to get started.
Right.
Beautiful. We have a question regarding the controversial, but I actually agree with you regarding the home ownership path, that is not for everyone, nor should it be the only route that is sold to us as a way to invest, as a means to grow wealth. And the question is, did I hear you say you owned a home? Question mark. Did you sell it and use it to invest?
Oh, I love this question. Okay, so I bought a house in 2016. It was a duplex. And I thought, like, again, this is the smartest thing to do, because let me just get somebody else to pay for half of the house. I actually sold that house after I realized, I hated living in New Jersey, so I don't even know why I bought a house. And this is why we go back to like spend money on the things you actually value. If you hate where you live, recommendation, don't buy a house there. So when I ended up selling the house 3 years later, I actually lost money on that. I sold it for less than I bought it for, which is just like, oh, wow. So you don't always make money selling a house. Who knew? That's not anything anybody told me. But yeah, so I didn't make any money. I actually had to pay to sell my house. So no, I did not use any of the money to invest. I ended up realizing that, you know what? Moving to a lower cost of living area, which is what I did. That's why I sold the house. I moved from New Jersey to Florida. I was no longer paying state income tax. I was still making six figures because I transferred with a job. So I was able to keep my Northeast salary and move to a place where the cost of living was 30% less. And instead of paying for a mortgage, I used all the extra money to start bulking up my emergency fund, paying off debt, and investing in the stock market. So there are a lot more strategic ways to build wealth than just buying a house.
Boom. I love it. It's what I always say, be comfortable with living the way most people won't, so that one day you can live the way most people can't.
Amen.
Beautiful. We have another question coming in. People think that they need a business that makes money to start a business. Can you speak to this as far as writing off expenses for side hustles? Some friends have side hustles but don't claim them because they think they need to be an LLC and don't have the extra grand yearly to do it. What's a workaround? This is a very specific question, but I also dropped it for you in the chat, Janice, so that you can read it.
Yes.
It has many components to it.
It does. Okay, first and foremost, anytime you are taking money, accepting money outside of a W-2 paycheck, guess what? You have a business. You are automatically a sole proprietor once you start doing that. There is no registration requirement for a sole proprietorship. It's literally just earning income, 1099, whatever, anything outside of a W-2 paycheck. All you have to do is take that money and report it to the IRS when you file your taxes. Okay. You're usually going to get like a 1099 form if you work with vendors who are used to, doing that. But you can start expensing your business expenses from the moment that you start building a business. So if you took a course, you can expense that. If you bought a laptop that you're using for an online business, all of those things are tax deductible, and you do not need an LLC. You do not even need an EIN, which I think a lot of people think too. You're just going to be tying that business activity to your social security number. Now, eventually, if you want to create an LLC and an EIN, yeah, more power to you. But the moment that you start taking money from somebody for a service, for a product, whatever, you can take advantage of the side hustle deductions and all of that stuff. And that's something that I talk about in the book, because there is this perception or community that like, I got to be legit, or like I can't do anything. And I'm like, I was a sole proprietor for 5 years in business, and my tax bills were real, even though I didn't have an LLC. Okay. So let's not overcomplicate things, because I think that's what keeps people from taking advantage of the system in a very legitimate and lawful way.
Yep. No tengan pena.
Yep.
No tengan pena. I love it. Next question. Do you have any tips on how to do the envelope system digitally? And P.S. Yomo ordered her copy of your book, and she looks forward to meeting you in Chicago next month.
Oh, hell yeah, girl. I can't wait. Please order your copy so you can bring it to the book signings. My favorite tool for the envelope system is a tool called Good Budget. So it actually does the envelopes system for you. Also, another option, like let's say you don't want to use an app. I love Ally Bank, because Ally Bank has the bucketing features. Ally Bank is a high yield savings account that is paying over 4% interest on your savings, literally just for parking your money there. And you can split up the money into different buckets. So you can have like a, short-term savings bucket for like vacations. You can have them for your bills. You can have them for the, vet deductible for your pet, whatever. So that's another way to do it.
Beautiful. Oh, yes. You're getting a lot of happy faces, which is great. Thank you. Next question. Can you share the benefits of an HSA?
Yes. Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know what an HSA is, it is a health savings account, and it is a specific investment account that you get access to when you have a high deductible insurance plan. So this is the caveat. If you have a high deductible insurance plan, and the way that you'll know is because it'll actually say HDHP, some to that effect, on your insurance card, or like if you log into your medical insurance portal, you will get access to an HSA. And the beauty of HSAs is that they have triple tax favorable treatment. So the money that you invest in an HSA is tax deductible. So essentially it lowers your tax liability. The money that you use in it to spend on qualified health care is tax-free. So you will not get taxed for using that money on qualified health care. And any growth of that account, because you are investing the money in there, that is also tax-free growth, as long as you're using that for qualified medical expenses. And it's the way that I manage my healthcare expenses, especially as an entrepreneur. Healthcare is expensive AF, but the cool thing is that between the fact that I can deduct all of my healthcare premiums as a business expense, and I get to use this account to save money on my medical expenses, it's brilliant. And I definitely recommend, if you're the type of person that like doesn't use a ton of healthcare, it might be a good option for you.
I'm like, yes, I know. Yeah. We have another question. This one's just dropped in the chat. What is your best advice for staying on track with your personal and financial goals?
Ooh, accountability. Okay. Accountability. This is why I mentioned how important it is to know your numbers. When you are actually tracking your financial progress, you can see in real time, like what's happening. And so whether that means calculating your net worth with a tool like the Empower app, or just having like a savings calculator that you, are filling out, a savings tracker that you're like manually marking every time you put an extra $100, or even setting milestones where you get a reward every time you hit something. Let's say you're paying off $10,000 of credit card debt. Maybe you celebrate that first $2,500 by taking yourself out for a nice like pedicure and manicure. And then once you get to that 5,000 mark and you're halfway, maybe you upgrade to like a full day at the spa. Like you have to give yourself props. you have to like recognize how hard it is what you're doing and give yourself the chance to celebrate. I don't know about you, but like I'm the worst at celebrating milestones, achievements. I think it's like eldest daughter syndrome, Latina, calladita, te ves más bonita. Like I think all of that shit is definitely like playing into it, but I've gotten much better at celebrating milestones because if you can't be your biggest cheerleader, like who the hell else is going to be?
Can I get an amen? Because I feel that when we heal, the community heals. When we give ourselves flowers, people are much more comfortable. In fact, in the Amigahood, there is a space called gratitude. That is a space where we encourage each of you to go in there and give yourself gratitude and flowers for something that you are proud of, and to also do that for an amiga. And I really do recommend that y'all go in there and give Janice, by the way, her name's actually pronounced Janice. So I just want to make sure everybody knows, because I was in here in the beginning like, hola, Janice. No, right? It's Janice. So I want to make sure we phonetically respect that. If y'all feel supported and motivated to do so, please go in there and give her gratitude, because it is not easy, one, to remember all of this, but two, to also consolidate and aggregate the information in a way that is actually understandable. And that is a very big feat. So we want to make sure that she feels the love from the community. Okay. We do have a couple more questions, if that's good. We have 7 more minutes. So I want to get through these. So the next one is, any tips on how to choose an accountant to do your taxes?
Ooh. I think the most important thing is that your accountant should understand your business model, because not every accountant is created equal. And I realized that when I was looking for my own, I have a very strange business. I make money in a lot of different ways. And if somebody doesn't understand like online content creation and like that whole world, it's going to be very difficult for your accountant to even be able to make recommendations when it comes to, tax deductions that you can take advantage of, et cetera. So finding an accountant that understands your business, that has some experience helping others who are in your same field, I think it's the single most important thing that you can do. Interview people until you feel like you found the one. Same with a therapist.
I hear that's right. Okay. 2 more questions, and then we are going to get to a fun, quick, I want you to pick from our Amiga Circle conversation, so we can get into the heart of it all, into the heart of what sparks and brings you joy. The next question is, I didn't see an IUL or annuity on your investment list. Are those not viable options?
Please stay away from both of those options. Those are predatory investments. And I say that in quotes because honestly, the only people who are getting rich off of IULs and annuities are the people selling them to you. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about it. I don't even want you to know what they are, because they are terrible investments. And you can do a quick Google search and find that I'm not the only person who's saying this. There has been a lot of people analyzing these quote unquote investments. And what happens is that they make them so complicated to understand and use really bullshit, scammy language to sell them, that they try to convince you that it's a great, tool. The fact of the matter is that investing in the stock market through traditional means, index funds, ETFs, is going to get you way higher returns than both IULs or annuities ever could.
I know that's right. And I know that also comes from a very boomer mentality. And we need to be much more comfortable understanding that we have to chart our own path. Yeah. And what worked back then, those tools are not the tools that'll work today.
Yep, absolutely.
Beautiful. Next question. Last question, and then we get into 2 fun questions. One is from the Amiga Circle, and someone in the audience really wants to know what your post-it has to say, but we'll get to that. It is, many tax preparers discourage claiming expenses on your side passions or side hustles because they don't know enough. So what's a criteria to find a qualified tax person? I feel like you answered this a little bit with how to find a really good and legitimate therapist, but I'll let you expand if you feel.
Yeah. So I think especially when you are an entrepreneur, it's not enough to just walk into an H&R Block and have somebody prepare your taxes. You need to have like an intimate relationship with this person. And I think that's what people make the mistake of. They want to cheap out and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to pay for like the ongoing services of an accountant, but your accountant is your trusted confidant. And the more that you work with them, the more they can understand like your specific business, how you earn income, what those different streams are, There's just it's impossible for somebody who literally just got your financial information and has, 30 days to prepare your taxes to be able to understand that 12-month journey that it took you to even make this money. So I think it's really in your best interest to find an accountant that you work with consistently, that you have on retainer, and that is a long-term partnership versus just, getting your taxes done and that's the end of it.
Mm. I love how succinct you are with your responses, truly. Okay, so here's our Amiga Circle conversation cards because we're all about having deep and meaningful conversations. Do you want the heal, the commune, or the grow deck, Janice?
Oh, I gotta go with growth.
With grow?
Mm-hmm.
I had a feeling, and I should have gone with my intuition, but this is okay. So I'm gonna see what the cards have and what's the one. Oh, okay. What fears are you currently overcoming?
Oh, I am overcoming the fear of being the financially secure eldest daughter of aging parents who are not prepared financially for retirement. Okay, that shit is heavy. I have been confronted recently with the reality of what that situation is going to look like, and I'm trying not to spiral, and I'm trying to remember that a lot of the work that I've done to secure my own retirement and financial security as a, rich abuelita is now given me the space to even be able to give energy to that. And so this comes back to something that I talk about in the book, that it is critical for you to put on your own oxygen mask on first, because when you do, and when you know that you're good, you can extend help with grace and compassion versus resentment and bitterness.
That is an Instagram post, so we will be sure to share that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably. And finally, because I know we're at time, what does your post-it say? You had mentioned keeping post-its, and we're all curiosa. What does yours say?
So I have many that I love, but I have one up here that I will share with you. And it says, "What is meant for you will wait for you until you are ready to receive it." And the reason why that is kind of my North Star is because I think there's this fear, this like crabs in a barrel mentality that gets a lot of us in this feeling of we don't want to collaborate or network, or by somehow putting somebody else on is going to take from our own. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. I have found that my wealth has grown exponentially as I've welcomed people into my community. And I know that what is for me, and nobody can take that away from me. So I think when we operate from that place of genuine community, it only does beneficial things for us.
I mean, Janice, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And amigas, honestly, we really encourage you to pre-order and buy the book, Financially Lit, The Modern Latina's Guide to Level Up Your Dinero and Become Financially Poderosa. Okay. As a reminder, our Amigas mentor sessions are recorded and a replay will be made available in the Amigahood replay section of the navigation bar, because I know so many of you have been asking. Our team will also drop the link once again where you can purchase Janice's book, where you can follow her on social media, listen to the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast. It is honestly one of my favorite ones. I download almost every episode, share it to a friend, and remember that is a love language, to pass on the wealth, because we all deserve to be wealthy. Thank you, amigas, for joining us for this very special Amigas Mentor session. Janice, muchas gracias.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for choosing to be with us and spending your beautiful time. Have a beautiful week, and we'll see you in the Amigahood. Bye.